was really hard for me going to the museum, and like even when I look at this and then I'm like, but that's not me, right? Like it's hard. Afrikaans, like I'm Afrikaans, I'm an Afrikaner, right? It's like really not a nice feeling, but then I discern that. I take that and I move it to the side, and I can clearly say to myself, yes, that's true, that's truth. It is not me. I don't have to be that. I can acknowledge that it happened and that it was like that, and that I can acknowledge that there were people like my ancestors, or well, I have to go into the sun a bit, like my grandparents or whoever that didn't make decisions that well. But I know better now.
What is your position now? That is the question, you know, where you are placed now, where you're located now.
The question is, where do you want that to be?
Sure.
Because that's another thing. It's not about telling anymore. Maybe we can go down here where it's like not so sunny. But in the past, I would have to tell you, your position is now not anymore as a black woman in South Africa. I have to tell you that. It doesn't work like that anymore. I can now ask you as a mutual, where do you want to position yourself?
Sure.
And how do you want to position yourself? It's not about race, it's not about culture, it's not about religion, it's not about any of these things. It's about, I'm a human, you're a human, right? These kids are humans. They're younger humans. We're a bit older. There's much older ones, okay? So, and if I ask you that, right, as an upcoming young educational psychologist, how do you want to position yourself? How does that question feel for you? What comes to mind when I ask you that? How do you want to position yourself?
You know, I think it's very easy to start by saying, where am I now? What kind of resources do I have now? That's an easier approach, I would say, right? And what we were talking about earlier is about the cognitive shifts that kind of have to take place. Like, yes, I am not bound to my context right now. So then that question, it broadens up a bit more, and it gives you so much more to think about, right? So beyond the resources that I have available now, yes, being in this community, it is such a privilege, Nicolene, for me to be going to university. It is a privilege. And for some time I was like, okay, I don't, you know, like I'm just going to school. But when I engage with these young kids, they're like, what is that? For a child to be so curious, like, how can I get there as well? I'm like, okay, how can I, beyond me being like, okay, how do I see myself, or how do I want to be in this world? It's like, in me being that person, how will these kids also see me? And what would they take? What do I want them to take from me being in this position that they deem to be so far-fetched, so impossible for me? So, oh my goodness, that is not possible. So I think it comes with servitude. It's very difficult for me to be like, okay, I want to see myself as, like you're saying, a red gown. It gives you that, you know, that feeling that, okay, yeah, I've made it. But where you are, what are you doing with the information that you have that other people don't have? So for me, servitude, I want to be in a place where I will be able to serve in whatever capacity that I can, because there is a very deep connection to these kids because I'm from here, right? And I'm like, okay, what set me apart, if there is such a thing? What set me apart? But also in that setting apart, there is a golden thread that binds us, all of us together. Like you're saying, it's not about race, age. Here we are, they're older people, you know, with much more wisdom than I have, you know. Here we are, you know, people from other countries. It's like, but we're all here in like literally one space. So what is that golden thread that binds us together? And it's humanity, and we connect through servitude. So I don't know if that answered, but it's like,
well, I mean, sure. And you know what I get really interested about is, here we are in one space. We have older people with more wisdom, and we have younger people with more opportunity.
for sure.
So, and you know how a Venn diagram works? Like it can go over and then right there in the magic middle. And I think now it becomes interesting because all of a sudden there's the international part of it, right? And there's the sense of place, but place can be multiple places
For sure.
at the same time.
For sure.
So I have another question for you, and I think this might be a very interesting question to someone like you who's a very deep thinker, hence the route of study that you've taken as well. So what is it that you will say to your 80-year self, right, that will make your 3-year-old self very, very proud?
Sure.
Let me just think about that.
Yeah,
for a
I
moment.
want to think about that one. Maybe I'm still trying to think about the actual words, but then let me just tap into the feeling. It is being proud, but tied together with gratitude. Being tied together with gratitude. And
Gratitude for what? What would you want to be grateful for?
I want to be grateful for the fact that I didn't just go through life.
But you did what?
I acknowledged every moment as meaningful, whatever meaning that might be. This conversation, I don't know where it might take me. I don't know what kind of feelings that I'm going to sit with going back home, but it is something. Whether it is magnificent, whether it is just something that sparks a thought or a feeling afterwards, that will be able to generate more positive thoughts, or like everything is just interconnected like that. So not just passing through life like life is happening. I make life happen.
What is one of the simplest things in life that you are grateful for?
Simple.
Just the simplest thing.
Simplest thing. I was thinking about this last night, actually. And I was like, like when you have that moment where you're like, okay, you recognize that I was writing, right? I was journaling. And then all of a sudden I just stopped and I really felt, I looked at my fingers. I'm like, okay, what are they doing? They are enabling me to write. And then all of a sudden, I don't know how to describe this feeling. I don't know if I would say it was an outer body experience, but like just looking at myself sitting in a room, right? And I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm on my laptop. I'm doing what I love. My research is not just research. It's meaningful to me. I have internet connection. I'm able to do these things with ease. And I just felt myself in this space. I don't know how to explain it. But it felt so, I felt alive. And I was aware of the fact that I'm alive. Right? Because every morning it's like, okay, I woke up, let me just do what I have to do. But I was like, I acknowledged my existence and everything that was in my space, that here I am existing in this. And in that moment, because I am a spiritual person, right? I was like, oh my goodness, there is a source, right, that holds everything together. It was holding me in that space, in that moment. And every day, every moment, that source, that God is constantly pursuing me. That being wants to connect with me. How magnificent is that? So it's simple, but that explaining it feels like it's something, but it was a moment. And I'm grateful for that.
So now I have to ask you the second question. How many people have you shared the story with?
Not a lot, Nicolene.
Why? What keeps you from extending that feeling of what gratitude means for you to other people?
I would say for the most part, it's based on the fact that I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. I felt like like when you communicate, verbal communication is the easiest form of communication, right?
Do you know that, or do you think that?
It's a perception that I have.
Okay.
It's a perception that I have that, things cannot, it leaves little room for misinterpretation, right? And I think the one thing that I have guarded myself against for so long is being misunderstood, right? And this comes from, like the deeper stuff now, the things that I've been working through in therapy, all of those things. That the feeling to, if I do talk, there is a need to over-explain because I want to make sure that you get it.
Will it be okay if I don't understand everything you tell me today?
My question would be, would you be okay with it?
Yeah, totally. Would you be able to accept me if I don't understand everything that you say today?
I should be able to, but to be honest, it will take me quite some time because I would want it to be a meaningful experience for you as well.
Would you know if it is meaningful for me? Are you allowed to go in that space where I can decide that for myself?
Not at all.
I'm just curious about that. I'm curious about that thought, right? About if you look at all of these kids that were here today, if you're looking at how much it means for you to be in control, that you actually take so much control that it leaves no life. It leaves no life for the rest to live concurrently with your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and all of that. And I know I don't want to go too deep into all of these things, but I think there are some interesting things for you to hold on to in terms of directly assuming that verbal communication, for example, is the easiest way. And for directly assuming maybe for another that through verbal communication I might misinterpret that. But to, as a psychologist and a becoming psychologist, to also believe in the natural intelligence of the other, right? And their experiences and their connection with you and all of that. And to be, I don't know, just let go a little bit of that expectation that you have to be heard, you have to be understood. Because I really doubt if any of these kids actually understood anything, right? Yeah. Today. And that's okay. That's totally okay. They were happy.
But they might have felt something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. All of it, I don't know. Some of it, maybe. Yeah. More than what we can understand, definitely. Right? But we cannot give up on this program, for example, because we didn't get them to understand everything 100%. Sure. So there's something for you in that letting go process. Because if you assume 100%, where's the space for me? Like, I just want 1%. But if you're telling me that I can only have an outside view in, I can't get to you. I can't have real, authentic connection. But if you decide that, hey, Nicolene, I'll give you 60% in this conversation. I'm going to come right here and I'm going to give all of my 60%, right? But the tables are going to turn for you because you're assuming a position and a position, right, as a psychologist, where you have to say, I'm going to come in 60% of your space if you allow me, right? The same with your support system. If you're not going to give that space for people to move in, to support, they won't be able to go there. So again, I'm like putting it right there on you to say, be a bit more lenient on that. I would love to come a lot more closer every now and again. Let's walk up in closing. It's really, really nice talking to you. And
Can I just
Yes.
acknowledge that landed so nicely on me. Thank you for that.
Energy through your body.
Thank you.
And you know what? In the work that both of us do, one by one, we will land each and every one from a 1% to 100% that we get in contact with. Why? Because we choose that. That's just the way it is.